Alright, here we go. Hopefully it's going to go quick. First thing you want to do is pull off this little semicircular pin. This is just a folded piece of baling wire I use, but it actually works pretty well. I want to make sure it's pointed towards the metal edge, because when it's pointed towards the metal edge, then it doesn't go flying. When I get it to first unlock, then I can just twist it around here, and then it'll come off without flying. Now I'm just going to be down that. If you're afraid of losing that little guy, you can just stick it. You can just stick it on the pin, but I really don't do that because it's kind of hard to get off. It's kind of hard to do this and do the camera at the same time. This thing seems really sticky. I did this like 2 seconds ago, no problem. Now it's giving me fuss. There we go. It's all mangled. Come on, there we go. Alright, and then you just have to get this big headpiece off. Now if you look right where the arm is, there's a U right here. That shows you have to slide this big piece down. This metal piece and this metal piece are actually connected together, and they're actually one welded together piece. It's spot welded right here. You can see a little ring that's spot welded here, up here, and then down here. So these two pieces of metal are actually the same piece because they're welded together. And you have to grab a hold of this piece, is the easiest way I found it, and then hit it from down here. It's the easiest way, because up here you try and hold on to this piece right here is actually part of here, but it's just easier to grab it like this. I'm gonna do this the other way, reverse it, and then you smack the piece. There we go. Smacking it, slips right off, and now we have this piece right here. Hey, come here, don't run away. And this piece right here, this is the piece that actually hits the staples. Let's see, where'd the other piece go? Alright, and then we have these two little black pieces of plastic. They look like this, and they have a notch. Then you got another one that's the exact opposite. They actually go, they touch a little spring-loaded rod here, and they also touch a pin that holds these two little hooks. And this is really hard to show, but it's a lot easier if I just pull this handle up. This handle is actually held in by the two notches and that metal piece that we just knocked off. So right now it is actually not being held in by anything, so we can just lift it up and yank it out. And then there's this little metal rod. Be careful you don't lose that little metal rod. It's just slipping around, and so is the pin. There's literally nothing holding it in as soon as you pull it out of there. So both of those can fall out, so you got to be very careful about where those go. There's also a flat metal piece that's attached into these springs. You have to be very careful. The easiest way I found to pull the springs out is to stick your finger in here and shove them out like this. They're just two springs, and then they have two holes inside here that they go into. And then you got these hooks. If you look, there's a groove on the side that lines up with their feet. They have little feet, and you just shove them through like that. That groove is on the same side, both sides. And if you look, there's an arrow. That arrow is supposed to be pointed in the same direction that the staples come out of when you put it back in. So you have to remember that. And then that's basically it. But I can't figure out where that little strip of metal went. I think it fell down on the table. Here we go. Here it is. This little guy. This is the little dude that touches the ends of the springs. Both these springs go onto these little lumps on the backside, and then these grooves match up with the backside of these little hooks. I'll throw this back on here. They match up with the top of here. If you can see right there, the edges have a little hook on the edge. They stay here, and this is all like blued steel. It's actually pretty cool. And if you look right inside here, there's two little grooves that match up with this arm. Because this little guy actually rides into here. Like that. And then that little dude just sits on top of here and makes sure that everything is straight on top of here. All right, no, right there. Yeah, like that. And then that little silver pin that I said to be careful of. Where'd it go? I was too busy focusing on the camera, but that little silver pin keeps these legs from moving too far until it gets all the way out to here. Then it can tilt and lean away. But once it gets right here, then it's basically stuck. It can't tilt like back towards it until it gets out here. Then it can flick or whatever. Because when it's like this, it goes down. Then you gotta squeeze the handle forwards and then squeeze up. Then it clicks and it goes out to here. And it goes back down. It's kind of weird and hard to explain just from showing you this. But yeah. And another thing I forgot to mention is that when you try to put it back together, you have to make sure that this piece right here is out. And I was like, shove here. Like if you did it like I did and you forgot to open it, you shove right here where my thumb is. And then you just push down on it and then shove with your thumb. Because if you're not careful, because once this piece over here is removed, it can actually stick out too far and it messes up when you're putting it back together. Because it can actually stick way further out the end than it normally does. Now I'm going to stand up real quick and look around here. See if I can figure out where that naughty little pin rolled off to. There it is, I can see you now. I knew I heard something hit a pile of metal when I set this piece down. I knew I heard something in the pile jump around. But I can actually show you what this looks like now with that on there. 1 second. Break the other hook that I missed. Come on. And then the hook jumps. Yeah, this stuff is really like fiddly, like most things. But if you see right here, the pin keeps this from moving too far. Then once it slides so far, then it can toggle past the pin. Yeah, and then there's this little shoulder right here on the bottom of the metal that keeps the feet from going back too far. Now, one of the things that can happen with these that causes problems is right here inside these little hooks can sometimes wear down, so you have to fix the angle on these teeth and give them a little bit of a dip inside there again when they wear down, which is kind of what happened with the one that I had. It's also kind of why we ended up getting it, because the tooth on here wore down underneath. I kind of went and got in a file and fixed the edge right there inside that tooth. Yeah, right up underneath there. I had to take a file and straighten it back out because that thing had started to get round right there. But I had to fix it up. Now it works pretty good. But yeah, when that stuff starts to go... When that stuff starts to mess up, it'll start skipping. It'll start squeezing it and it'll just click. And sometimes you'll pull like a little bit and it'll just release early because that hook will have problems. Now, when I said put the arrow down, you got to make sure that the points are both straight down and then that's back. And that arrow right there on the end of the knob, one second. The arrow right there on the end of the knob is pointed straight down when you put these back inside the machine. Now you can put the springs in if you want to or not. I like to put these in first because then the springs aren't in the way. And just like before, gotta get these little feet to line up with the notch. Rock it in there, lift up, foot in, lift up. Now we can just slide that down. And if you look right there, you can see where that foot catches that little piece of metal right there. You can see right there where it's wraps around that little piece of metal. That right there is actually a huge leaf spring that runs down the inside of here. It's this big leaf spring right here that actually grabs a hold, and that's what gives it the energy to hit the staples. That is also what this little guy right here is attached to. He goes on the front of this like that. Then whenever it's cocked back, it slams down. And this is the part that actually drives the staples. One big nice piece of steel. If you can actually see, it's rounded off on the end. That's another thing you have to be careful about, is the end will start rounding off and you have to take a file to it, or else it'll start snagging on the inside of here. It'll also start to cause friction on this thing, on the inside of here. Start scratching up all this stuff in here, and it'll get stuck, and it'll cause it to hang up a lot more. So you have to smooth off this. And if you look, there's a white streak down the middle. That's where it rubs this plastic thing. I don't think it matters which direction you put it in, but I always check for that streak so I know which direction to put it in case there's like something weird about it that does actually matter. I don't think it does. But yeah, I don't need to put this in right now. I was just showing you guys that's what this is for. And that's what these little hooks catch on, is that little strip of metal. And that leaf spring actually goes all the way to right here where you can see these little indentions. The leaf spring then wraps underneath this pin and goes up here. Do not move this pin because you will never be able to get it back in with the leaf spring in there. You will literally have to take a whole bunch of pressure to bend that leaf spring down, which is something I assume they do in the factory. But yeah, you'll have to take this apart and then put the leaf spring back in there and then get something to shove up inside of here while the leaf spring's wrapping around this, because you will never be able to get that in if you just take out that pin. Do not mess with that one pin or you will have problems. Alright. Now, there's this spring and there's this spring. They're literally the exact same size. And now there's a clear plastic piece right up in here that I'm going to stick these little guys into. I like to stick them in from the side if I can. You can see right there. I take them out from the front and then stick them in from the side just because those particular ways are easier. Now I stick one in from this side. And because the hole is just so, it actually makes it to where it just like holds itself in. You don't really have to do anything for it. And then they just so they actually stay in. Now I'm going to set it on this little metal piece right here. I'm going to do the same with this one in a second. There we go. That keeps this metal piece from moving, among other things. Next, I'm going to try and put this guy under the springs, but usually when I do that, I put one plastic side piece on, because this little notch right here, one second, I'm going to set this other guy down. Alright, this notch right here is what this little guy right here actually sets on as well. If you look at the very edge, right there, it just closes right inside here, and it actually sets right up there flush with the edge when it's inside the machine. And this wheel right here goes on the outside of the pin, so I'm going to put this one on. I got to check and see which side this is first, because you can actually get these sides backwards. When you're putting it in, you got to look at it. The one side will have two notches. That's the part that faces towards the inside of the stapler. And then the notch has to be towards the very front of the stapler. So this side is the left side. So I'm going to flip this guy around real quick. I accidentally bumped the springs. I hope they don't fall out. But yeah, now I'm going to grab a hold of this with my fingers. If you look, the arrow is pointed down. I stick this guy on here. Right there. And it just goes in like that. Pushed from the other side and accidentally got to shoot out. There we go. And I got that. And the reason I do that is just because once I get it on there, it's easier if I can do it that way. I'm going to grab this little metal guy, and I'm going to try and finagle these little springs onto it, because this is usually the part where everything gets a little let's just say interesting. Alright. Oh. Helps if you don't drop it. I'm just going to hold this here. I'm going to poke forwards with my finger, and then I'm going to use my other finger from the other side to try and shove these springs. Just going to slide this up. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on. Get my fingers in the way. There we go. Come on, you gotta get both of you on it. There we go. I have a feeling they never intended for people to be able to take these apart, but yeah. Now that I got this on, I can try and finesse the other side on. It's basically the same as the front side. I just gotta push this spring up from the inside while I'm putting this plate on here. There we go. Try and push with my thumb the plate. I shoved the plate down at the bottom. Not holding on to that very well, I guess. I'm not holding on very well to this metal plate. Come on, there we go. There we go. I had to push this piece in and then shove my thumb in from this side to get it straightened out. Now I gotta get the top one. Still haven't gotten the top one yet. I had to put it back in the bottom one because it slipped out. There we go. Yeah, they poke out like that. Now that these are in here, you gotta be very careful because when you stick the handle inside of here, sometimes they'll shove stuff around. Alright, now if you look, the metal pin is missing because it's right here on the ground. Again, these little pieces are very, very whooshy. And they like to hop out and go places. Alright, come on. Trying to hold the thing and shove the pins in. This is the only part right here where I need like 3 hands because I have to mess with the pins on this and hold everything together with one hand. Sometimes I can let go of these black things on here and they'll just stay. Sometimes it won't, but you gotta pinch right where that metal piece is because sometimes when you shove this in there, it'll shove this metal thing up too high and it'll want to fly out and that causes a problem. Now see, I can take my hands off of it because it's got enough spring tension that'll hold still. But I'm going to pinch this real quick because I need to put the springs and everything back on the front. Well, not the springs, but the, gotta get this guy. But first, gotta get the staple puncher on here first. And I'm going to pinch it with the other hand. Shove this guy on here. Now there are grooves on the bottom of here that do line up with the pinhole. This semicircular one is actually where the pinhole goes, so that'll help you line that up. And then the punch wants to hop back off again. Alright. Now if you look, it is sticking out the end enough so I can actually stick this back on here. And it slipped again. There, and you punch. I think I'm going to have to lean this back a bit so quit hopping out. There we go. Now I'm going to shove that on there. Alright, now I just got to grab the cover. It should stay together pretty well. I'm going to grab the cover, pinch it. Alright, once I get this on here, I won't have to pinch it anymore. Alright, now just shove this piece here. I'm going to try and lean this back a bit. Alright, now you see right there, that's got a groove right here. Oh, by the way, this thing does have a lock on it right here, which is pretty cool. Now, with this part, actually shoving this on is a little easier than shoving it off. You set it down on a table, then you just push it down on the top piece right here. And you just got to be careful not to pinch the pin with that little U right there, because then if you pinch it up, it'll actually move the handle's angle a little bit, so you want to be careful of that. So you slowly tap it, but make sure that this piece doesn't shove on it too much. There we go. And if you look, you can still see a little bit of the silver, so it's not completely shoved up on there. Now if you look at the pinhole, there we go. You can tell if it's lined up or not by that pinhole. Alright. Now if you look right here, you can tell this is a flat rivet. Now if you look on the other side, it's riveted. So this is the piece that I like to put my O-ring on. So I'm going to shove the tail through this side. Alright. Check. Alright. Seems pretty straight. So I'm just gonna go ahead and shove it. Now this is this little guy again, and you can literally just shove this guy on with like your finger or a pin or whatever you have. I have rings that I can use too. That's a little bit of a ring. You can also do that with coins or whatever else you have, which is pretty cool. And now that we're done, I can shove this back in. And yeah, if you see right here, this is where I had an incident where I accidentally pulled the pin out and had to shove it back in. I ended up filing the edge down just so I could slip it in. Do not make the mistake that I did. And I still don't have enough out where I can actually shove the ring back on it. But yeah, I made that mistake. Oh yeah. And this is the lock, so if you squeeze it, one second. So if you squeeze it, you can actually flip that ring down right there and it'll catch it so it cannot recock itself. It cannot cock itself. Go. And if you look right here on the side, it says use the whatever brand staples they are. They just want you to buy their staples. I don't think it really matters what kind of staples you get. Because I'm pretty sure I've used Office staples in this thing before, but if you look right here, it has a sticker. It says their brand name, and then it says right underneath 1/4 inch and 9/16. Those are the two size staples it can use. But yeah, this is an older version of it. The newer ones are covered in plastic with basically the same body. But yeah, these things seem pretty cool. I was looking, and the newer ones are like $35. But I mean, if yours is broken and you know how to take one of these apart and you know what everything's supposed to do inside, then you can fix it. And this one had problems with skipping. Like, they have problems with this arm resetting. Some of these, like, they just have problems resetting, so you have to lift the arm all the way up, then squeeze it. Sometimes the arm just doesn't want to go all the way back like it's supposed to. Which might just mean that you need to replace the 2 springs inside of here. I don't know if there are replacement springs available. I'm assuming you could probably find a spring that was about the right length and diameter, but yeah, you might want to be careful because those might be too loose or stiff. So I don't know. I've heard of people actually stretching springs out, like grabbing and just stretching it out and making it like a little bit more elasticy or something. And somehow that's supposed to make them stronger. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Yeah. Look at that. $5019. But yeah, bye.